Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my microphone here because there is a different color showing up here than I usually see on the microphone. It's orange, and typically the microphone color on here is green. So maybe the color orange is significant to someone, or maybe this represents some kind of unexpected change that someone is going through. But regardless, we are going to get into all of that in the reading today. So I'm going to start off by shuffling the energy oracle cards, and we're just going to see what comes through here initially. Okay, so what can I channel for anyone who's listening to this reading? I keep getting some name that has the letters M, A, R, O, and G in it, so those could be letter initials for someone. But of course, whenever I channel really specific names, dates, details, things of that nature, keep in mind that these are typically messages intended for specific individuals. So right away, we have the thinking woman in the reverse position. Let go of your mind, let go of some kind of thought that seems to be blocking the flow here. I know I'm speaking in really broad terms, but what I'm getting is that for someone listening, the mind is getting in the way of the soul here. So you might be feeling as though you're overthinking something. I got the name Anastasia for someone. I know that's a really unique name, so that will probably only be for one person. There also could be letter initials from that name relating to someone. I also keep seeing the number 666, 333. I saw some kind of alleyway in my mind's eye, but what I'm getting here with victory in the reverse position and also journey reversed and temple path reversed, it's almost like someone is in this dark alleyway spiritually. I'm hearing they think it's the road, but really it's this alleyway between buildings, and they're feeling stifled or feeling suffocated, thinking that what they're on is the road, but really it's this kind of off-course alleyway. And it feels so narrow because it's not meant to be the road. I know we're talking about something very symbolically here, but it's almost as though I might be speaking to someone whose mind, meaning the logical, conscious part of the mind, which of course I'm not negating here in any kind of way, because we are all here, human embodied soul in human form. And as an embodied soul, we have obviously a physical component to ourselves as well. Even for those of you listening, I can tell that whoever I'm speaking to, you are someone who is so much soul meaning. Very often, you carry so much consciousness of who you are. Not just who you are, but who others are as well, energetically. And we touched on this in the last reading. But it can make it difficult at times to be on this dense physical planet and to be embodied here in this human form that has its own physical needs and ways of being. Of course, that's kind of part of the paradox of being human, especially for one such as yourself, who is such an ancient soul, who has lived so many lifetimes. Okay, so as I was saying, it's almost like that human, logical part of your mind has led you down this dark alleyway, and it's telling you that this is the path or the way that you need to be going, but it feels very dark and restrictive. I'm imagining being in this really narrow alleyway, where you're walking at night and constantly looking over your shoulder because you're just feeling a little bit uneasy. And there's like this restrictiveness, there's this uneasiness about this path that your mind is trying to push you down, that your soul is resistant to because it understands that this isn't the road, this isn't the path. Now, I feel like this could resonate very specifically with just a few people listening, so only take this if this is connecting for you personally. This won't be for everyone. I am getting, for those of you relating with this as well, I got the name Lois or some variation of those letters. But I'm getting that you aren't always walking down this alleyway, so to speak. I feel there's a little bit of vacillating, like a going back and forth, where sometimes you'll find yourself being led by the mind more, and many times you'll find yourself leaning back into the pathway that the soul is taking you down. I just keep hearing restrictive, like something about this alleyway path feels really restrictive. I heard something about an alley cat, I'm not sure why. Maybe someone has a cat, maybe some kind of wild cat or feral cat has come up to you or crossed your path recently. But I'm just feeling as though there's almost like this contradictory energy, meaning contradictory to something that your soul knows. With financial constraints in the reverse position, notice how every single one of these cards is reversed. It's like this energy just feels very reversed. It feels opposite the flow for whoever I'm speaking to here. I just saw a crown for someone. Maybe you're carrying this very royal energy spiritually. But your human self is trying to push you to this. Is going to sound so strange. We're going to dive deeper into this, but it's almost like your human self, your conscious thinking mind, is trying to get you to do things that are beneath you in some sense, that you feel like you have to do for some kind of goal or objective to keep walking this path. But really you're being led in a contradictory direction or in an opposite direction here. And I feel as though your guides are trying to open you up to a freer way of being or thinking here, or more of an abundance mentality. I'm hearing not an all or nothing mindset, so maybe that restrictive pathway your mind is trying to lead you down feels very all or nothing. It's like it has to be this or that. But this path your soul is trying to redirect you to is one that doesn't hold judgment. It's one that approaches this situation or this pathway or purpose with much more of an abundance mindset. I'm hearing allowing the flow to carry you rather than trying to control it. I know this is starting out a bit vague, and I promise we're going to keep getting deeper into the messages here. But what I will say is, you've already been on the trail of this abundance mindset with blossoming abundance reversed. You've planted the seeds in some kind of new direction. But the thing is, there's something about that direction your soul is leading you down that isn't giving you fully that physical evidence yet. It's like that seed that you've planted and you aren't yet seeing grow, and you keep watering it, you keep pouring your time and energy into it because it feels enlivening for you. It fills you with the feeling of passion and fulfillment. But there's been some aspect of yourself, that human aspect, that's been questioning, is this ever going to come to fruition? Is this ever going to be visible? There might be some way that you're putting yourself out there, and there's a human part of you that's aware that there are many eyes on you, or many people aware of what you are doing or what you are creating or what you planted here. And it's almost like they're watching. This could be more figurative. They might not literally be watching, but they have this awareness of what you are doing. And so there's almost like a self-consciousness here of, what are these people going to think if this doesn't fully grow above the earth? If this doesn't fully come together? I'm hearing fear of looking crazy or looking out there with something. Now, of course, this could be very different from person to person, but whatever it is, I feel that the true pathway, the heart pathway where your soul is leading you, it involves putting your heart out there for the world to see in some kind of way. Now, you might not literally be visible, but when I say the world sees the way you're putting your heart out there, I mean your energetic signature is felt by the collective when you are doing whatever you are doing here that's bringing that feeling of passion that makes you feel alive. But that you might not yet exactly know how it's going to come together in some kind of way. So with the patience card reversed and the root chakra in the reverse position and the heart, the root chakra is a bit unsettled here. But the heart is wide open, and the heart is what is guiding you. I just heard, find faith in the uncertainty. I got the name Kristen for someone as well. But what I'm getting here is, I'm hearing your heart is strong enough to support you. You may not fully know it yet, but your heart will support you in whatever you're doing here that involves keeping your heart open. You don't have to worry about the way that you're feeling a little bit unsure or a little bit unstable here physically in the manifested world, because your heart is going to be your stabilizer. I'm hearing it's going to protect you. I'm not sure protect you from what I imagine. We'll talk more about this, but with patience. In the reverse position, it's almost like there's this feeling of urgency to do or create or move in a direction that involves radically keeping your heart open and pouring your heart and soul into something or someone, or a project or a path. And yet, the root chakra is really destabilized over this. It's really unsettled in a sense. And yet, it's time. So you might be feeling this contradiction in your energy because there is so much of you being so intuitive as you are that knows that it's time to be sharing your heart, to be doing something that lights you up, to be moving forward in the direction of where that road is. My guides are now getting back to this. I know it's kind of a rough metaphor, but they're getting back to this alleyway versus the road and how you can walk down an alleyway, but you can drive quickly down an open road. And if you keep following the road, it's actually going to take you to a freeway, which you could almost imagine as a fast track spiritually, or when it comes to some kind of success in this area. And so it's almost like get out of this alleyway of restriction and paralyzation and fear that your root chakra is trying to keep you in here because it's afraid of the unknown, and get out on the open road where you are creating with your heart open, where you are forward looking on that road. Looking towards the horizon, I'm hearing. And as you keep driving, I'm just imagining a road going through a city like 25 or 30 mph, but then eventually it merges into some kind of highway where you're actually going, say, like 50 mph. And what I'm really getting here is as you keep following the heart road, as we're going to call it, eventually that's going to merge into a roadway that is moving you even more quickly towards the realization of some kind of goal. So essentially, to sum it all up in this kind of convoluted metaphoric language here, as you keep following your heart, you're going to build momentum. And that momentum is going to move forward physical manifestations and materializations around this goal or endeavor much more quickly because of that momentum that's building. And I know that we're all on different waves, even though there is a collective consciousness here. So for some of you, you might be more so on the front edge of this wave that we're describing. If that is the case, you might already be picking up that momentum. Maybe you've been moving down that road for some time and you're feeling yourself begin to merge into those faster roadways that we're talking about, where you're actually picking up speed in terms of your physical manifestations and even beginning to see physical confirmations of that. I'm just getting that your heart is onto something here, something that you just know and that other people don't understand. But what you just know doesn't make you crazy. It means you are onto something incredibly rare and valuable that other people don't yet understand. But they will. Because again, this energy is going to pick up and build a momentum. And those manifestations are going to be coming increasingly into the physical. For some of you, you might be still very much just vacillating between that alleyway of fear and this roadway that your heart is leading you down. For others of you, you might already be seeing the momentum picking up the confirmations. I'm hearing something about conversations being a form of confirmation. So maybe you will find that, randomly in conversation with someone, maybe even a stranger, certain things or topics or whatever begin to come up in that conversation that are actually aligned with goals that you have been privately working towards and planning about, or things you've been thinking about. And this can be a sign of confirmation from the universe because often other people are like unconscious channels for spiritual information without realizing that they are. They might say something to us that is actually one of our guides channeling something through them. And of course, we can do this for others as well, and often do. So maybe you've been experiencing this going both ways, where others have unconsciously channeled something for you that you needed to hear, whether it was a compliment, a word of encouragement, just saying something to you out of the blue. But you have absolutely been doing this for other people. I was going to say you might have been doing this for others, but I'm just so clearly seeing in your energy and the way that your energy affects others, how you show up in the world, that you absolutely are being this unconscious channel for so many others. And even though you are someone who's incredibly intuitive, you may not even fully register every time that this happens because it's become so natural for you to follow the guidance. This has put you in a very rare position to receive a certain level of manifestation and synchronicity and good timing in the world. And all of those other forms of really, they're all physical evidence of our own alignment with our most authentic self. And I'm just hearing that saying about authenticity being the highest frequency. Now, I've also heard that unconditional love is the highest frequency. And I've often said that unconditional love is the most powerful frequency on the planet, because it is who we are with all the layers peeled back. I just felt a wave of chills for someone. It's who we are when we are completely absent of fear. It's what's left when there's no judgment, either towards ourselves or projected outwards, which are essentially the same thing. Yet what's been coming through recently is that authenticity is the encompassing of everything that we are. It's the expression of that unconditional self-love. So yes, unconditional love is the highest vibration on the planet, from my perspective. Now, of course, you may have a different perspective. Sorry, there were some things rattling around there. You may have a different perspective, and I would love to hear about it in the comments underneath the video. But I really believe unconditional love is the highest frequency on the planet. But that authenticity is the step after that. Meaning, once you've practiced unconditional self-love and therefore unconditional love frequency to the point where it becomes extremely natural, you are then effortlessly authentic. And when you're authentic to who you are at the core of your soul, it's almost like you are a living, breathing expression of unconditional love. Because in your unconditional self-love, you are unafraid to speak and move and show up as who you are. And it just flows naturally because there's no self-judgment there. There's no judgment towards others there, which again, are the same thing. And I feel that the reason this information has been coming through is because I've been speaking to a very specific person or group here who has been so regularly practicing unconditional love and self-love, unconditional self-love, that it's become natural for you to just live and breathe as your authentic self. And so you might find that when you are doing those things and you know the things I'm talking about. I know it's different from person to person, but those things for you that really make you feel alive, where you say, because I'm doing this today, it's almost like this could be it for me, and I would feel complete. I would feel satisfied. Now, of course, you are an endlessly evolving and expanding being, so it's never the end for you, but it's just this feeling of being on fire with passion and feeling so full of zest for life because you have this awareness that what you are doing or saying or who you're connecting with or how you're creating in that moment is just exactly where you are meant to be. And I feel that so much of this human experience is just reaching for those moments and finding that feeling that feeling of exhilaration, that feeling of aliveness. And someone close to me once said, when you find that feeling, hold on to it, and it stuck with me because we all know those times in our lives. And for some of us, even if right now things feel a little bit out of sorts for you, maybe you've ended up in a place that feels really dark. Maybe you're going through a dark night of the soul. And if that is you, know that you are not alone. Everything that you're going through serves a purpose, and you are so seen and you are so understood by the universe, by your guides, by your own higher self. And there is even a future version of you who is living the life of your wildest dreams, seeing you going through this very dark moment, who is cheering you on, who is so proud of you. And that's why you keep going, because you can sense the pull of that timeline where you are already living and doing and being and showing up as that higher version of yourself. And what you're going through right now is a deep, intense, painful at times, but also incredibly necessary activation. And on the other side of that, You are going to be capable of experiencing so much more love for others, self-love, a deep sense of passion and fulfillment that most people never have the chance to experience because they never went through that dark night of the soul that you're going through. Now, I know that was just for maybe one or two people listening. For many of you here, I know that I might be speaking to your past. This might be something that you've already gone through. Of course, time really isn't linear. So just hearing that may have been healing to a past version of yourself on that timeline. Maybe you are the one saying to yourself now, saying to your past self that you still carry around with you to some degree, that they are going to make it, that they're going to get through whatever they're going through. Or maybe you're the one in 3D time going through that. But either way, I hope that was really a healing activation for someone listening. Which leads me to another point, which is I feel collectively are really beginning to integrate some very traumatic timelines. And so even if in 3D time you are currently on a 3D time track or timeline that feels mostly really high vibrational for you, know that even in those cases you may have felt recently that some previous outdated, expired timelines that have still been somewhat alive within you are being integrated, are being healed. And if this is you, you might find it really beneficial to do some form of exercise that feels aligned for you, that involves speaking to this past version of yourself. Whether it's visualizing, I know that we all are very different in some ways, and we have different ways of manifesting more powerfully depending on our strengths. And for some of us, we're more visual. For others of us, we really lock in information more through writing, through speaking, whatever it is for you. But some kind of exercise that taps you into that past version of yourself and allows you to have a conversation with them and to essentially say, you are going to make it through this and you're going to become stronger and there's a light at the end of this tunnel. Maybe there is some kind of exercise that you might feel guided to do where you are energetically and emotionally connecting with this past version of yourself that's been coming up for you, so that you can fully integrate that timeline and allow yourself to align completely with this incredibly beautiful and abundant reality that you are beginning to catch a sense of intuitively. So, okay, let's get a little bit grounded here because that was a lot of information. I'm going to reshuffle here. I heard the name Lucy for someone. I also saw a house that almost looked like a gray or green house or building in my mind's eye. I'm seeing a yellow stone or crystal for someone, also a waterfall. Okay, I'm going to be shuffling here. And while I'm shuffling, I also want to talk about dreams because this is a bit of a side note, but our dream state collectively has been super active recently. So this would be an amazing time if you ever feel aligned with this idea to keep some kind of a dream journal. Of course, it doesn't have to be anything formal or even something you do every day. But if you do happen to have some kind of particularly strange or powerful seeming dream that you remember, you might find it beneficial to write it down somewhere, whether it's in an app on your phone, maybe in a literal physical journal, whatever works for you. Because you might find that you are actually connecting with other souls from your past, present, or future. Maybe you are someone who's in the public in some way, but if that doesn't resonate for you, then you actually might be connecting in your dream state to some individuals with some kind of power or status that you might think of as famous, or people who are more visible in the world. Let's say. This will not be for everyone. This feels like such a specific message, but you might be connecting in consciousness with certain individuals who are very visible in the 3D world or on the world stage, because there is some connection meant to occur in consciousness. Interesting, I know that's not going to be for everyone. That was a very random message. But otherwise, you might find just in general that your dreams are really vivid. Again, there's almost like a strangeness about the dreams. The meaning might not be immediately obvious. But I'm hearing that if you do write it down, then you might find a more subtle or symbolic meaning that actually comes through from the dreams later on, where it suddenly occurs to you that something happening in your physical life symbolically connects to something that you experienced in a dream. I also keep hearing something about a natural voice. So I know that one is really random, but we did talk in a recent reading, and I know many of you did connect with this message. Maybe I'm talking to someone who really specifically locked in with this message around throat chakra activations. And they do talk about when it comes to either public speaking or singing or using your voice in some way, finding your natural voice and being the most powerful when you are speaking with what they sometimes also call your true voice. Because you can hear a lot about a person through the tone of their voice. It's one way that we transmit the frequency of our soul. And that's actually how this YouTube community has been created, because I've been sharing my voice here on YouTube. And of course, just like with everyone, that carries my own soul frequency. And then those of you who resonate with that will be attracted to this space and will be able to connect with each other. And then that flows both ways, because many of you are sharing your own voice in some way on this platform. Of course, we're all co-creators here. This is a co-creative effort, 100%. And even when you write a comment or just share anything here, you are transmitting your own voice and strengthening that kind of signal here that then others are able to connect with and tune into as well, if that makes sense. It's all coordinated by the law of attraction, just like everything is. But the reason that your natural voice is so powerful is because it's who you are at the core. It's your natural essence. And when you're radiating that signal, you are attracting back pure, authentic soul connections. Whether it's through a platform, whether it's through conversations with others. I just don't know why I keep getting something about finding your natural voice. Maybe this is something you'll feel guided to research more into. I'll admit I'm not really an expert on the actual active techniques that you can use to find your natural voice, but I know that there are many. And for many of you, the other thing I want to note, because my guides are jumping in here to say, don't let the mind get too involved here. Of course, as I'm talking about researching something, my guides are saying it's not so much about finding it as in trying to fix it and figure it out consciously, as it is about relaxing and allowing it to come through, because your natural voice is effortlessly flowing through you when you are not allowing the mind to artificially get in the way of it. So maybe, rather than researching techniques, the message here is your natural voice has been activated and is coming through now in a really strong way. So at this point in your soul's evolution, it's all about just allowing your mind to get out of the way of that process of it. And I know many of you resonated with the reading where I spoke about this throat chakra activation and how you may have noticed that your speaking voice or your singing voice has changed over the course of time recently, over the last several months or maybe years, depending on how long this activation has been for you. And this is not coincidental. This has all been part of that automatic throat chakra opening taking place within you. Wow, there's been so much coming through here. I'm not even sure how to tie up this reading. We've channeled so much here, and believe it or not, we will be channeling more in the extended version of the reading. Yes, if you are new, welcome. We do channel these readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But of course, I also do like to do many readings in between those videos as I feel guided to. I know that it's a bit random. Sometimes I put out a lot of those. Sometimes we only do the weekly collective readings, just depending on the vibe and the energy and all of those things. But I do these 3 reading videos at least every single week. And in addition to these readings, there is always a Patreon reading channeled on the same days and at the same times, and shared exclusively with our Patreon Soul Tribe, where we dive deeper into the messages. Now, of course, I know that for some of you, you might be feeling very complete with this video. Maybe you've received whatever you needed to from this reading, and if that is the case, thank you so much for being here. And of course, if you feel guided to it, I would love for you to subscribe. This is a form of energetic transference, so when you do subscribe, it does tend to be easier for me to pick up on your energy. And sometimes when you do this, I'll even find more messages come through for you in downloads in between reading videos, because this collective doesn't begin and end with these videos. Of course, this is an energy thing, so we're all really connected to telepathically and consciousness all the time. So when you do subscribe, it makes it easier for me to pick up on those connections and communications. But in the Patreon reading, we will be discussing more about specifically what energies might be affecting you. We'll be doing some kind of aura read, I don't know yet, if we're going to go through the chakra centers. We do sometimes do it that way, but I'm really going to allow the energies to guide that reading, so we'll see what shows up. But if you are interested in joining us there, then the link to join is always in the pinned comment and description box underneath the video. You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, where I post energy updates, inspiration, and further information. Otherwise, I am sending you all so much love today. Happy summer solstice, by the way. I can't remember exactly which day it's falling on. I know it's typically like the 20th or the 21st. And because I'm curious, I'm going to take an extra second of your time here and look it up really quick, even though I know a lot of you will let me know in the comments. Okay, the summer solstice is June 20th. Wow, okay, so I guess the official summer solstice was yesterday, but today we are still very much feeling the powerful effects of the longest day of the year. So do let me know, by the way, if you want more messages on the summer solstice specifically. Maybe we can dive into that a bit in a different reading video. Otherwise, this has been the longest outro ever, but thank you for being here all the way to the end.